We are in week 7. And so that, if you're ever in doubt, right there, I try to keep that updated. Sometimes I'm a few days late if I'm really slammed and I space on it. There's tutors available to help you for free if you haven't seen that. So please take advantage of that. And what's up? If you click on this link, it brings up this image. And it tells you what time and where. Okay. And I know you got to turn your head sideways to look at that. That's a bit of a bummer, but that's where they're located. Good question. If you haven't registered for my IT lab yet, you have until like 10/1, which is pretty soon. So you need to do it by then, otherwise you fail the class. That's it. You got to be in my IT lab by then.
Can I know what's the course ID for my IT lab?
So if you want to know the course ID for my IT lab, you go into my IT lab, and right here, that's the course ID, right there. Okay. You could get it from Blackboard. So you just go right there to the My IT Lab link, and that hooks you in. All right. So under assignments here, you need to do week 7 assignments. So how many people this is helpful to you? Just sort of like a reminder at the beginning of every week, this is what I need to do. It's pretty routine by now, right? But it's also like a good reminder, like just get your head squared away. This is what I got to do to sort of make my grade in this class, make rent. Right? So this is what you should do this week. You should do the word project. This is like one of the most valuable projects you'll do all semester in my class. This one is, this is just more programming. Sorry, I thought there was something else here. The word project that's in my IT lab, which I'll show you in a minute, I don't like it so much. Like the department one, just to sort of measure across all classes the same measuring device, how our students doing. But this one is great right here, because this one's going to teach you how to write a paper and write it really well. And one of the secrets to life is not only what you know, but also who you know. And then another one of the secrets in life is not only who you are, but also how you package yourself, right? Because it's that you've heard that saying, "Dress for success," right? You've heard it, right? Yeah, dress for success. And if you look the part, you're more likely to get the part, right? Like, okay, let me look professional. Hi, Roy. Everybody, this is Dean Vasquez, and this is the gentleman you want to come see if you ever have any challenges as a student. We're all here to help you out, and Roy is the next guy up the chain. His office is right across the courtyard there. But I wasn't aware of that when I was an undergraduate, that if I was struggling or if I had any issues or if I didn't feel like a class was being run well, that I could actually, as a student, just go in and say, hey, you know what? I was in this class and I really didn't like the way the teacher handled something. And I have stories I could tell you about that when I was an undergraduate student. I had a teacher one time write on my paper, "This is the worst paper I've read ever in my life!" Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. When I was an undergraduate. And that really took the wind out of my sails, right? It's like, really? That's the worst paper you've ever read in your life? It's kind of discouraging to me. In hindsight, it's like, that's something that teacher shouldn't be doing. And so if you ever experience anything like that, you could go talk to Roy and say, hey, this was kind of demoralizing. I think there's a better way. This instructor could have given me positive, constructive feedback. All right, so back to this. Not only what you say, but also how you say it. In art, they talk about content and form. So the content is, what is the actual content? And then the form is what form does that content take? So, it might be clay is the content, and then the form gets sculpted into some, sculpture. Here, your content are your words when you write a paper, and then what form does it take? And so being able to write a paper and then make it look good, format it well, that's going to help you get a better grade, because people judge you not only on what you say, but also upon how you say it. Right? We know that, don't we? When they study politicians, that the effect that a politician has upon the audience when they're doing public speaking, what do you think has more of an effect upon the audience? Is it what they say or how they say it? How many people say it's what they say has more of an effect upon the audience? Raise your hand. How many people say it's how they say it? Right? Yeah, because you could say some crazy stuff, but if you say it well, people are going to be like, I have no idea what that guy's talking about, but wow, he's passionate, he has conviction, seems like he knows what he's doing, cool. right? Many positive examples of that throughout history. Martin Luther King, you know, and you know, great public speaker. But then bad examples too, right? Hitler, great public speaker, horrible content, right? Great form. Like if you ever watch Hitler give a public speech, a video of it, it's like, wow, that guy is like, holy cow, he's captivating. He's a great speaker.
He was like Obama. I mean, really, he motivated the whole country.
I don't put Obama in that category.
Well, I mean,
as
that's the effect he had.
yeah, but Obama's a pretty good speaker too. You're right. You're right. All right, so that's what this project's going to show you how to do. Is I don't care what you write. I don't care about the content. You could just write, "All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy." Right? You recognize that quote? Anybody? Stephen King fan? No. Okay, you haven't seen The Shining. So you can just write nonsense. I just want to see it looking good. That's all that matters. And that's what this will show you. And that's going to help you with all of your other papers when you're in school. So you need to do these 2 week 7 assignments right here. And then in my IT lab, we are in week 7, so we're done with all of the windows. We're done with Word. And you need to be up through assessment 2 in Excel, right? Because that would be 7. We got 1, we have 4, that's 5, and then 2 in Excel, 6, 7. And then you also have your exams. So chapter quizzes through chapter 7, and you should already be through the Office lab test for Microsoft Word. Okay, so that's what you've got lined up. All right. What do you guys remember from last week? What did you learn? What did we talk about?
I remember it was a guy speaking. Like,
There's a guy speaking. We watched a video.
yeah, I watched a video.
What was the video about?
The internet.
The internet, right. And networks and fiber optics. We talked about networks last week.
We talked about the old computers and like the internet, how you old computers you can't use them like talk with others.
Yeah. Yeah, connect computers, talk to others. All right, so I want you to get out a pen and a piece of paper. So with your pen and your piece of paper, I want you to write networks in the center of the page, or network. This is what we talked about last week, and we've been learning about a little bit. Just write down network. And then I want you to just brainstorm everything you already know or everything you remember from last week about networks. Right? So when we talk about how do networks work at the most fundamental level, what are the basics, like what do you remember from that conversation last week? So just you, your pen, the paper, and your brain, try to recall as much as you can about networks. Go. All right, cool. So hopefully you wrote some stuff down. It's not a do or die situation. It's just an exercise to work your brain and help you try to, reinforce what you're learning. Whenever you're learning something, it's kind of like that thing I got from my dog, right? The more you want something to stick, the more you got to roll around in it. So the more the more you use something, the more it sticks, the more you learn it. So I want you to now, you guys will be like, everybody's in a row of 4 except right here. So the 3 will be a group. But everybody else, just, get with the person next to you. So the 2 people in the middle can't be together. Otherwise, the people on the outside won't have anybody, right? And introduce yourself again, just to make sure, you guys know each other's names. So even if you do know each other's name, just say Todd. And just in case the person next to you doesn't know your name. And then say, this is what I remember from last week about networks. So this is what I know about networks. And each of you take a couple of minutes and share what you remember from last week about networks. Go. That's awesome. It's great to have my boss back in the back. You guys are like instant. So I heard somebody saying modem. That's awesome. Modulate, demodulate, very good. Right? A network's just 2 or more devices connected together. That's one of the things you probably should have said. And the benefits of a network are to share resources, information resources or physical resources. It allows us to share. And then when we connect devices, we have either a wireless or a wired connection. And then what were the 3 types of wires?
Braided pair.
So twisted pair is one, and that's Ethernet, right? Twisted pair is also used for phone, but yeah, Ethernet's twisted pair, and then fiber optic. That was pretty cool. We calculated how quickly it'd take to send a signal around the world, and it was like, whoa, like less than a second, right? And with fiber optic moving at the speed of light. And then so we had Ethernet, we had fiber optic, and what's the one coaxial, right? You get from your cable company. So that's connecting devices, wired or wireless. And then we talked about modems. A modem stands for modulate, demodulate, right? So that's where we get that acronym from. And then we also talked about topology and architecture and protocols. And what were those things? What was like topology? What do you think about when I say a topographic? What do you think when you hear topographic? It's a map, right? So topology is kind of like the physical mapping of the network, and that would be like bus, ring, or star. Star is the most common today. Architecture, there's 2 types of architectures. One, I gave like a restaurant analogy, where the client would come in, and then the what?
Peer-to-peer.
Client server, and then also peer-to-peer were the 2 architectures. And then what were protocols when I went behind the screen? You guys are like, what are you doing? Rules of communication, right? And then, you know, what's that, you know, HTTPS right there? What's the P there?
Hypertext.
Protocol, right? Hypertext transfer protocol. So that's the rule of communication that's used on the network. So that's the main points about network. So if you got some of that stuff, outstanding. Really good. There's a couple of really cool videos. Today we're going to talk about the internet, right? We looked at the networks last night, and the internet is a network of all networks. Like, it's like the biggest network in the world. And so it's just a network of networks. It's just a bunch of crap connected together. There, that's the best definition ever of the internet. It's a bunch of crap connected together. You know, a bunch of computers connected together. And so it's the largest network in the world. And people say it's a network of networks. But before we talk about the internet, I just want to point out that here in lectures in Blackboard, let me just make sure I actually hit record so the people online will still go, okay, good. Here in lectures on Blackboard, if you click on that course outline lesson plan, it'll take you to, right, like each week we have different topics we're talking about. And so here we're going to be talking about the internet and the World Wide Web. And there's some really interesting videos around the internet and the World Wide Web. The internet and the World Wide Web is actually a phenomenal, invention in the history of mankind. Right? There's been certain things that have been invented in the history of mankind, and those inventions have led to turning points in the course of humanity. Right? So the internet is one of those turning points where we're leaving the industrial age, right? The industrial revolution, and we're entering the information revolution. Some of those other big turning points throughout the history of humanity would be like the plow was a really big invention. It allowed people to go from being nomadic hunters and gatherers to more of an agrarian-based society to farm, right? Or the printing press was another really big invention where, we started to be able to distribute information more easily, print books. And then within 200 years, some historians argue that because of the printing press, we had the scientific revolution and the Renaissance, a flourishing in the arts and the sciences. Well, in some ways, we're having right now the second information revolution, right? The first one was that printing press that allowed books to be mass-produced. And this one here is like, wow, you have access to the entire Library of Congress in your pocket. Holy cow, right? And you've grown up with it, so maybe it's like second nature. But you want to learn something, nothing's stopping you. You have the resources right there. Go watch videos on. How many people have watched like a video so that they can learn how to like do donuts in their car, or or something, right? Like no matter what it is, we want to learn. Just like how do I do donuts in my car, right? And there's like a training video. It's kind of funny. So there's some really great videos about the internet and the World Wide Web, and I've just highlighted a couple of them in here if you want to come in on your own time and watch them. But like behind the Great Firewall of China, right? It used to be the Great Wall of China kept out the invaders. Now they have the Great Firewall of China. And how China, and its population and the government uses the internet to help control the population and understand what's going on with the people of China. As do all large power structures, whether they're government or corporations, they're using that data that they get from customers, people using the internet, however they could get it. 4 principles for the open world. That's also a really great talk. We saw this one last week. What is the internet really? And then this one right here, beware of online filter bubbles. So I don't know if you're aware of this, but when you search at Google, like your search results are tailored just for you, right? Whoa. Like if I search for, if I search for a hot dog, I might get the food. And if you search for hot dog or somebody else, they might get like, stuff about skiing, right? But Google tailors search results for the individual. And so those filter bubbles, this talk talks about how, hey, is that the best idea? Google knows if you lean more liberal and democratic or if you're more conservative and Republican, and then they'll give you results that you like better. Because nobody wants to hang out with somebody who's always giving you the stuff you don't want to hear, right? And so Google, to service their customers more effectively, they want to give their customers what they want, not what they don't want. And so it's just kind of interesting. And so he talks about, does that just continue to reinforce people's thinking, their current thinking, and limit them from having more pluralistic perspective on society by exposing them to many different perspectives, right? As opposed to just the one perspective they already have. And then this one right here is also really great, artfully visualizing our humanity. So I don't know if any of those speak to you. This guy Aaron Koblin's a great programmer and went to UCLA and he takes data and then displays that data in really interesting ways, right? So cool talks. Make sure you check them out if you're interested. All right, so internet. What do you guys know about the internet already? Not that much?
It's kind of a mystery.
Kind of a mystery? Like when did it start? Anybody know?
I thought it was around like in the 1990s or something.
1990s? That's a really good, that's what most people think, because that's when the World Wide Web started. And there's actually a difference between the internet and the World Wide Web. And the World Wide Web started in the early 90s. I think 92 or 93. Not a big date guy, but early 90s. What else do you know about the internet? So don't know when it started. Anybody know why it started?
It started with a lot of, wasn't it like multiple colleges trying
Yeah.
to communicate with each other?
Yeah, multiple colleges were trying to communicate with each other. This was back in the 60s.
Originally, it was more about national defense, though, wasn't it?
Originally, it was more about national defense. And originally, they called it the ARPANET. And ARPANET, they called it ARPANET because it was a project of DARPA. And DARPA is the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. So DARPA is actually a really interesting website to go look at if I had internet connection. Or maybe they're being hacked, I don't know. Denial of service attack. But DARPA, they do all these really advanced. So DARPA is also like, breakthrough technologies for national security. Whoa. All right, like that's pretty cool. Right? Like what is it that they're doing? Next-gen vacuum electronics. Don't know what that's about. Switches for multi-talented chips. Shape-shifting switches for multi-talented chips. 17 hacked their way to CGC finals. Cybersecurity. So they, like DARPANET's been responsible for the driverless car. Like they had a big driverless car challenge. Who could create a driverless car?
Driverless car.
Driverless car. How many people have never heard of driverless cars? Okay, cool. So like one of their initiatives was by 2015, this year, half of all the vehicles in combat should be unmanned. And think about it, right? Like what's that one that's unmanned? That's the plane, Predator, isn't it?
Yep.
Right? And now they have, or the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie,
Oh.
Predator plane. See, like, I don't know, since I'm like 44, they think it must be like the movie from the 80s when I grew up. Right? But here's the unmanned aerial vehicles. Right? Holy cow.
I always thought those were drones.
Yeah, drones, they're flown remote control, but they're unmanned or unwomaned, right? And there's no person inside that. And so they also wanted a driverless car. They used to have a driverless car challenge. And I can't believe we haven't talked about this yet, but like Google, let me just see here. I'll bring this up. Driverless. Escape, Control F, driverless. If I could type driverless car. Driverless car to hit California. Let's see. Robots personal. Google driverless car. All right, I got to pause this because otherwise I'm stealing other people's content. So if you're watching this video online, you could go search YouTube for self-driving car test Steve Mahan and watch the video we're watching in class. All right? Isn't that wild? How many people just had their minds blown?
So it actually took him to the drive-through?
Yeah. So Google has been working on these cars. Like 10 years ago, they started trying to develop driverless cars, right? So driverless cars, self-driving cars, and they would have these contests out in the desert by Las Vegas, and these cars would just crash, go off cliffs, right? And then the engineers at Google, this one guy, he started Udemy. I guess his name doesn't matter. Founder of Udemy, is no. Oh, sorry, Udacity. I'm typing in the wrong one. Is Sebastian Thrun. So Sebastian Thrun used to be an engineer at Google, and when he was young, he lost a friend to a driving accident. And so he's like, I want to create driverless cars, and Google said, all right, go for it. And he created driverless cars with the help of other engineers, and Google's been testing them, and they're now, California's signed off that you could do it. They've driven hundreds of thousands of miles around California. And if you go up to San Jose, you'll see them on the road and the freeways. You'll be like, whoa, nobody's driving that car. The person in the driver's seat's just hanging out. Right? They're not doing anything. And Tesla is coming out with one now. So you can see Tesla Autopilot. Right? You can watch that video, Tesla Autopilot. But anyhow, yeah, a bit of a tangent. But that was like an initiative that was also spurred by Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, DARPA, right, to have autonomous vehicles. And so DARPA, anybody have anything else to say about the driverless cars? So kind of cool.
Somebody got run over by one.
Somebody got run over by one? It's hard for me to imagine that unless they jumped in front of
it was those ones though. It was like
unless they jumped in driverless car, run over, you know. See.
The vehicle accident rate has lowered because of
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
driverless cars.
And if a driverless car ran somebody over, it's probably manufactured by Chrysler or something.
It probably was. It probably was.
I was wondering how fast, can you go before it's considered unsafe, the freeway?
Oh, they go on the freeway and everything.
They wouldn't go.
80, 70 miles an hour. Safer than you and me.
Wow.
I mean,
How fast was the thing spinning, the camera spinning? Because it's always having to scan the proximity, right?
I don't know how fast it spins. But that's how it's working. It's scanning and sort of taking a reading of the environment and processing all that
I
information.
can see how it'd be cool for a Humvee, you know? Most of the guys that get killed over in the Middle East right now are, killed by roadside bombs, stuff like that. So, driverless transports like that would be ideal,
Yeah, with sensors that could detect if maybe there's
better.
little things like, not to drive over.
So does it go where basically it's just listening to what you tell it to do, or how they say they want to go Taco Bell and it just knew to go to Taco Bell?
So you know how when you want to go somewhere with your phone, you just say, I want to go to this location, and it's like, in 15 feet, turn right. Okay, take that, and then just connect it to the little gears in your car. Turn right now. It's basically that.
It has to be something more than that.
Yeah, obviously, it's a little bit more involved.
It has
Yeah,
cameras.
yeah.
I remember there's an episode of Top Gear where they do a race against I think it was like a cargo truck or something. It was for the military, and it had the exact same little camera on top of it, just slightly up armored. But things it could do, they mentioned the exact RPM that the camera runs around, and it shows you the sort of view of what the camera is actually seeing. And it's really cool. It overlays basically a bunch of laser dots around its proximity, and so it can see every rock in the road, every crevice, and it's just making the road by itself And that's what's impressive about it. It's not just a navigation machine. It's actually deciding for itself where to go, what's in front of it, what obstacles it has to deal with, and how to deal with them.
Yeah. And same with the Google driverless cars. So even if the map is showing a road here and there happens to be a tree across it, it's not going to run you into the tree. It senses the tree, or a biker or a deer runs in front of you. Yeah. All right, so an interesting exercise. I just want you to think about this for 30 seconds. How's it going to change the world to have driverless cars? What's the world going to look like? More populated? Because we won't have as many people dying in accidents?
It's gotta be pure accidents.
The accidents that do or may happen are going to be a little complicated to sort of discern who's at fault.
Yeah,
things
yeah.
like that. So I think that was one of the main issues with popularizing the driverless car is what kind of decision will the computer make for itself? Like what kind of value will it put on the life of the driver and the life of the person that you might run over? Do you?
Oh yeah, good one, right? Like, do I hit the person or drive off the cliff?
Yeah.
Who wrote that algorithm? Do I kill that person or kill myself?
Yeah. Like, does
Ooh.
it calculate the amount of people in the car and then calculate how many people
Yeah.
you're going to run over?
And how old is the person in front of us?
Yeah.
They've had enough life. It's a dog. Hit the dog. That's good. What's that? What do you think?
People will not need insurance for that car.
Yeah, most people don't have insurance, so no big change.
Maybe lower,
You should have insurance.
maybe lower insurance rates.
Lower insurance rates. So are bus drivers, truck drivers, their job, is that done? Truck drivers, man, done.
Yeah.
Right? Trucks are going to be driving themselves. Whoa, trip out. All right, so it looks like Roy's ready to give you guys a eval. I'm going to pause this. Where did we leave off? We were talking about the internet and ARPANET and Defense Advanced Research Project Agency and cars and trip out. Everything's going to change. There won't be bus drivers or truck drivers anymore. And you'll just get in your car and watch TV and read your books and
Evaluate life according to a car.
you have a microwave in your car so you can do popcorn.
Did you say read a book in your car?
Yeah, while your car is driving.
Okay.
Why not?
It's like a book
Or that's old school, reading a book. Nobody's going to read a book anymore.
Books nowadays.
or phone.
Make out. Maybe the population will go up because people will be hooking up in their cars, right? It's like, we don't got anything else to do. We're driving all the way to LA, man. Look, this thing's got bed. Did I just record that?
Do you think that we'll still need seatbelts and stuff? Would it still be made with seatbelts?
Oh, yeah, maybe not. If they're not crashing, you won't need a seatbelt.
We'll still all be
Like-
aware of each other.
Yeah, just be trains or whatever. I hope there aren't seatbelts. Seatbelts are kind of a drag.
I read an article just like 2 weeks ago from Google that the biggest problem they're having with their cars is not the cars that they like a lot. It's people, cars that have drivers in them that they're having.
Yeah, cars with drivers run into them. Because people are imperfect, unpredictable,
Chaotic.
fallible, sleep deprived, drunk, low intelligence. All right, enough. What do they call that? They call that, what's the word when you hate humanity? The word for that is,
Disgusted?
it's hate humanity word. No, there's a word for it. It's a misanthrope. There we go.
Oh, really?
Misanthropic. Down on. No, humans, they're flawed, right? And you can make software to be less flawed. So that's where, the reason they created the internet was because of this map right here. I thought, oh, there it is. No, that's not a good map. Let me do it.
We're talking about the college map that you.
I don't know. Anyhow, the internet was created so that if there was a nuclear war, communication could stay in place. Because before the internet, you had switch networks. Okay, and so this is what switch networks look like, right there. So that's a switch network. And a switch network is you make a connection, and there's a wire, and it's basically like you and the person on the other end of the wire are using that wire. Nobody else can use that wire. If that wire gets cut, your communication gets broken. That's a switch network. And packet switched networks, right? So packet switching is like this, where you break your message up into packets, and it can find any route that it wants, right, to get to its destination, and then the packets get reassembled. And so we could blow up both of these two cables right here. We could cut them, and our communication could still occur because it just route through this other pathway, right? And so that allowed communication to continue to occur in the event of a nuclear war. And that was the impetus behind building the internet. It started out in the late 60s. The first one was like UCLA and like Stanford or something like that, or UC Santa Barbara and Stanford, oddly enough, because I don't really think of UC Santa Barbara as being all that high end. It's more like the party school, right? Like, wow, they were doing some cutting edge stuff. Holy cow, who knew? So anyhow, that's how it started. And then the World Wide Web started in the 90s. So if you have this network that could send text across the network, well, now we could start doing some text, and we could format that text, right? And so Tim Berners-Lee created text with some markup in it, hypertext markup language. And you guys have been doing some of that markup tags, right? Where it's like, make this strong, make this heading 1. And it's just more text, but then when you receive that text, you could have a piece of software, a browser, which looks at that and renders it and then displays it in a certain way. And so that's how the web started. And that was in the 90s, the early 90s, 93 or whatever. So that's the difference between the internet and the World Wide Web. Most people don't make a distinction colloquially when you're just talking about it, right? It's like, oh, it's the internet, it's the World Wide Web. But the World Wide Web is actually, right, a service which is running on the internet. The internet is this infrastructure of cables and computers and routers that allow us to send text messages back and forth. And then the World Wide Web is, text messages with markup and all this other code so that when a browser receives it, it can display it in a certain way. So that's the difference between those two. But when you hear people talk about it, it's just like they use those words interchangeably. The digital divide's this idea that the haves and have-nots of technology, right? So it's, like this side of town has less access to technology than kids on that side of town, right? That side of town, parents are richer, everybody's got a computer, they got phones. This side of town, there's plenty of households where there's no computer in the household. Though I'd hesitate to say there's no phone, right? Because I was in Seattle last week, and I saw a homeless person with their cart, and they're sitting there and they're looking at their phone. Like, whoa. All right. Even homeless people, I guess, have a little money, so, right? It's like nice to be able to look things up and read things.
They get free money and have no bills.
Free money what?
They get free money and have no bills.
Free money and have no bills,
I
right?
don't understand why they wouldn't have no
Yeah.
bills.
I don't know, I was going to say they got to sleep outside, but I like sleeping outside. I don't like being insecure and not safe, right? Like sleeping outside at a bad part of town under a bush, that doesn't sound so good. Sleeping outside in the woods? Yeah, I like that. Net neutrality is, what the heck is net neutrality?
Net neutrality is giving away your content to basically the net provider. Basically, AT&T is controlling whatever they want you to see, their content. You're not watching your content, what you requested for.
Yeah, you're right. You're right on. So net neutrality is a concept that the internet should be neutral. Should be neutral. Nobody should have prioritized access or control over the network, right? Everybody should be an equal player. Me and AT&T equal on the internet, right? Like if I put up a website and AT&T puts up a website, anybody else can access either my website or AT&T's website equally. Like AT&T has no advantage from a technical standpoint in terms of transmitting, sending, and so that's this idea of net neutrality. Of course, the large corporations don't want that, right? They want to have a fast lane and a slow lane. So if Todd put up his website, he's on the slow lane. Unless he pays us $1 million a month, then he could have his customers access him in the fast lane, right? And so the internet was really founded. The World Wide Web was founded on this concept of, equality, and that was one of the great things about it. And there's I have the same opportunity to reach customers as AT&T. I don't have to pay some big tariff, So anyhow, some large companies say, hey, we incur a bunch of costs and we should be able to charge for that by maintaining cables or whatever. And we should charge people for a fast lane and a slow lane. And so that's the idea of net neutrality. You can check it out at saveithinternet.com.
Wow.
What?
I said wow.
Wow. ISPs are your internet service providers. They're the ones who sell you internet service. Generally speaking, around here, that's who?
Comcast?
Comcast. Who else? Anybody else? Just Comcast, right? Talk about a monopoly. I don't. There's DirecTV, I think, does it.
AT&T works.
AT&T does it too. Yeah, so that's who's giving it to you. A URL is just this web address up here, right? It's your Uniform Resource Locator. Pretty technical sounding term, right? But that's what it stands for. So it's locating a resource, and there's a uniform way to do that. Uniform Resource Locator. Help me locate a resource. And that's just, your web address up here, right? And so we already, I think, looked at this. But when I go to a website like, I don't know, let's try something different. Reddit. And so I typed in Reddit, but then if I start the terminal and I do ping Reddit, so I'm basically just sending a ping reddit.com. And so it gave me this address, 198.41.208.39. So let's try typing that in. One 198.41.208.139. Direct IP access not allowed. That's all right. So if I did it on mine, which doesn't have sophisticated crap going on, pingmcleods.com is my mom's website, right? 72. I think I showed this, did I not? 29. 31. So, right, that'll take me to mcleods.com. Right, there's my mom's website. Old. Sorry. And that's hard to remember. 72, 29, 31, 4. So we created domains. But for that domain to map to that IP address, we need to have domain name server. So when somebody types in this domain, I have no idea why the internet's so slow today. When somebody types in this domain, then it'll take them to this IP address. And those are called domain name servers. It just maps the domain name to an IP address. But this IP address is the location. So when we talk about a URL, Uniform Resource Locator, right? Uniform Resource Locator, it locates a resource for us. And that's the domain name system. And so, when we look at domains, we got this first part, which is, the protocol identifier. And then we have here is like the domain name, right? Part of the URL identifies the web server hosting the web page. And then here we have paths. In the old days, those paths translated to folders and files. So just like here on my computer, I have, a directory, right, where a certain path translates, to certain folders, right? And I could look at like some file. I could say get info, and then it gives me that path, right? There's the path, and you can't see that maybe. There's the path. So back in the day, the URL used to translate to a certain path of folders and files on a server. Today, when you create web applications, they call this RESTful. Whoa, I don't want that. They call this RESTful web services, right? And RESTful web services, those paths no longer translate to folders and files. It's just the server receives that and then knows what code to run, right? So that's kind of how that's set up these days. So then you have all the different domains, .com, .edu, .gov, .mil, .gov.uk. So those are like, top-level domain names, TLDs. And there's a whole bunch of TLDs coming out. So new TLDs, right? New top-level domains, and slow as mud today. So that's IP addresses, that's domain name system. TCP/IP, when you talk about networks, and we looked at this network layers, we looked at this last week a little, right? Network layers. You know, the physical layer, data link, network, transport, session, right? Transport, transmission control protocol, internet protocol. So, you know, that's where the TCP is. The session, HTTP, hypertext transfer protocol, sits on top. So, you know, when we look at networks, TCP/IP is just like one layer lower, right? Physical wire, and then we build up these layers in networks. And so HTTP runs on top of TCP/IP. And you could even do like, I don't know if you guys are interested in seeing this, but you guys want to see some coding or no? Yeah? All right. Hard to believe I've only talked to you for 41 minutes. Like, how's the entire class gone? Open recent. So here in my programming class, we're talking about TCP, and then we talk about HTTP. And when we go into TCP, there's like, you know, let's just see what this one does. Right, so here I have a little program that says, hey, there's a package called net, which has network pre-written code. I want to set up a listener, and it's going to be listening on the TCP layer, and it's going to listen on port 9000, so that gives me a listener. And then I accept any connections that come in, and so there's my connection, and this is just like an eternal loop that's always listening, and as soon as it hears another connection coming in, it accepts it. And then I get my connection, and then I could copy my connection from, you know, where am I copying it from and to? Well, let's see this run, okay, and you'll see. It's coming in, and then I'm copying it back out to this server, and so let's watch that. So terminal, change, no, I could just leave that one there. And then here, I'm going to go into 4104 V04, go run main. And so I just started that server, right? So that server is now listening. And I could come in here, and I could start telnet session. I don't remember the exact syntax. I've got it right here in my notes. Telnet localhost 9000, there we go. Boom, telnet. And so I just connected to that server, right? So the server is listening over in this piece of software, and over here I just connected kind of like as a client, hey, what's up? And I type that, and then the server just copies right back to me, hey, what's up? Kind of cool. All right, so whatever I send the server, right, whatever I send the server, it just sends right back to me. So I just sent that to the server, and then it sent it back to me. So that's a TCP server. Kind of fun. But not that complicated, right? You look at that, it's like, whoa, I just set up a little server. And then to build a web server on top of that's not that much more.
How do you open that window, sir?
Which window?
Very most thing.
You just hold down, you go to Spotlight, which you could access right here. Or Command Spacebar on the Mac opens this, and then you type in whatever you want to open. It's like the search thing in Windows, and it gives you what you want to open.
Is it in Windows too?
Windows has the start button and then the little search box. So the command spacebar doesn't work in Windows. There's probably some shortcut for it in Windows. I don't know it. So searching the web. Google did a little training, power searching with Google. You could go to powersearchingwithgoogle.com. You could click this link right here and you could take it. It's one of the extra credit assignments. So you can learn how to use Google more effectively. For instance, I could go to Google, right, and I could search, so there's Google, and then I could go in here and on my desktop documents, I think I have a picture of me. I could drag that and drop it in there. Maybe not. Images.
Minion.
There we go. So now I could drop this image. I have to be in the images. So it just searched for like something, search for that image, and it found all the places on the web where that image occurs. And then it found similar images. So this is what Google thinks I look like. It's not that great. It's not very flattering, actually, to do this right now for me. I think one of them's okay. This dude's all right.
Hey, they all have hair.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That counts.
A little bit of hair, a lot of forehead.
That guy right there looks like me.
Which guy looks like me?
That one with the beard right there. That
Right there?
Yeah.
That's about the closest one.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh,
All right, baby.
Wow. Wow.
I don't know about that one though.
Wow. I was about to point that one out too.
So that's humbling. But like if you had some part you needed, right? Just take a picture of like a part, you're doing a plumbing job or something, and upload that picture. And it's like, oh, this is where I buy that part, right? These 5 stores. Sweet. Cool, huh? So yeah, search by images. Or when you search for something, right? Like I could search for Telluride or whatever. And then I could say, hey, search tools. And I want to change, I only want to see larger than, I want to see really large pictures, 4 megapixels. And I want the usage rights to be labeled for reuse. Okay, so now I could use any of these images without copyright worries. And then I could say, okay, and I want the color to be more red. Right? Sweet. So here are all the images that are really large, have a reddish color, and they're Telluride, and I have permission to use them. Not that many, actually, right? Run out pretty quick.
What'd you say this was called?
Google image search. Right? And then Google has all kinds of stuff. There's like Google Shopping. How many people have never used Google Shopping? Raise your hand.
I've never used it.
Google Shopping. So if I go to Google Shopping, I could be like, I want to get, I don't know, Hancock drill. I don't know what that is. This is what comes up, right? Oh, this is where I buy it. Or I want DiCecco pasta. Sweet. Great. Good pasta. Order it. Or I want Kalari chocolate. Kalari organic dark chocolate. Here's the links. Kalari chocolate is the best chocolate in the world. I went to a thing at Fresno State where they had 2 people. It's like in Ecuador, and it's like all sort of like the people grow the trees and then make the chocolate and sell it. And you can't buy it anywhere. You have to buy it online. But they had 2 people from this community that do this in Ecuador. And then the chef of food science out at Fresno State took their chocolate and made these desserts. And I ate so much chocolate, I felt high.
Wow.
Like I was all, whoa, dude, I feel so good. I feel like I just drank 4 beers. It was wild. So there's shopping, right? You got all kinds of, you could do flights, right? Here in Google. And a lot of people trip out on this. It just has so much depth. Most people have never seen this before. Location history, right? Skip. And year. So let's see, I don't know, 2014. And month. Let's say July, and day, nothing. Maybe that was before I had a phone. I thought I had a phone then. Maybe not. 2014. Let's try it in November. All right, cool. And so that's all of November. And hey, on that day in November, I went from Phoenix to Detroit. And then here, I went over on that day to there. I was moving around quite a bit, right? And then this day, I went up to Portland. And then here is when I was in Portland, where I went in Portland, right? And then here are the pictures I took when I was there. What the hell? Are you kidding me?
Children's Museum?
Huh? Yeah, I went to the Children's Museum with my family, right? But like, dude, that's where I stayed when I was in Portland. Was right here. You know, and these are the different places we went when we were in Portland. You know, it's like, are you kidding me? Hello, big brother.
Did you had your GPS on?
Yeah, man, it's just all like through my phone. I could see each day, right? Here's the day we went up to Hood River and saw my aunt. And then here's the day we went back, flew back. That's like nuts, dude.
It keeps track of it because you have your GPS on. It's able to.
Keeps track of it because I'm a movie star. What are you talking about? I don't know. Yeah, it's just like, you know, mind-blowing. Well, you could see how this would be really useful information if you're the police and there was a bank robbery. Show me everybody who was there between 2 and 4.
The whole GPS.
Google. So the moral of the story is if you're a criminal, don't take your phone with you. So that's what power searching will do. You could clear your footprints, right, somewhat in a browser. When you're browsing, you go look at things you shouldn't look at. You don't want people to know you're looking at it. You could go in and you could go into settings. And in Chrome, every browser has this. And then somewhere in here, you could say, show advanced settings, privacy, clear browsing data. So a clear history of everywhere all the websites you've looked at. And you could also, when you're in here, you could go to new incognito window. And so anything you look at in here, your browser won't remember you looked at it. Google will know you looked at it. Your ISP will know you looked at it. The NSA, the FBI, the CIA will know you looked at it. Edward Snowden no longer knows you looked at it, but at one point he did, right? But your browser won't know, and it won't store things on your computer. So
The first time I used the incognito, it was funny because I don't know if it still has it written on there. It says it says all that like, oh, these people are the ones that can still see it, and these are the things that aren't tracked. And then it said, but be careful, the person behind you could see it too. But it was just funnier because it's like, whatever you're doing in incognito, it's like you're there by yourself because you don't want anyone else to see it. But it's basically trying to warn you, like there could be someone else there watching you. Like, it was just funny. I don't know if they still have it up there.
no, yeah, I think so. Let's see, because I closed that kind of quick. Pages you view in incognito tabs won't stick around in your browser's history, cookie store, or search history after you've closed all of your incognito tabs. Any files you download or bookmarks you create will be kept. Going on doesn't hide your browsing from your employer, your internet service provider, or the websites you visit. Email, we know what emails are. CCBC, not everybody knows that. Carbon copy, blind carbon copy. So if I wanted to email my boss and then, let somebody else know, hey, look, I finally emailed him about this, I'd CC the person. This isn't an email intended for you, but I'm just CCing you because I want to keep you in the loop that I finally did this thing so you could see it. BCC is like I email my boss and I BCC my wife, so later I could say, can you believe that email? or whatever, right? And my boss doesn't know that my wife got a copy, but that's BCC. Netiquette just means having etiquette on the net. And then spam is unwanted email. So don't ever fall for anything sent to you via email. When people call you and they say they're from your bank or Microsoft, say, yeah, me too. I'm from your bank also. I'm from your Microsoft also, homeboy. Right? Or whatever, right? Like, seriously, when people call you, really, you're from my bank, there's a problem with my account, what's your name? What's your phone number? Let me call you back, I'm busy. And then you call the bank, don't call the number they gave you, and you say, Phil just called me from this number. Is that you guys? Is there something wrong with my account? No, there's nothing wrong with your account. But that's like some of the most effective hacking is social engineering. Just talking people into giving you their wallet. Right? Phishing is sending people fake emails. It looks like it came from PayPal, but it didn't. Right? That's the internet. What do you guys think? How many people show hands you got something of value for your time today? All right, how many people did not get something of value for your time today, but just mainly got annoyed by me making you turn your monitors? Raise your hand. That's right. You had a chance to extol your vengeance. Probably not the best day to bust somebody's chops a little bit. What was that? No. All right. All right, cool. Well, I'm glad you guys learned something new. Fill out your cards. You go early if you want.
It was the self-stopping part that I was confused about. Oh my god.
Let me just take roll also out loud because I want you to fill out your cards too. But when you hear your name.